Welcome back. Welcome back to the show. Today's video is on the Matrix. The Matrix. Well, for most of us, when we talk about the Matrix, we think of the TV show The Matrix. Morpheus and Neo, perhaps that's what you think of. For me, when I think of the Matrix, I was first introduced to a Matrix back in the 80s, long before that show came about. And the word Matrix was actually invented or introduced by a 19th century English mathematician, James Sylvester. And it was his friend Arthur Cayley who developed the algebraic aspects of the matrices in two papers in the 1850s. So that's when it was first introduced. And when I think of a matrix, well, I'll show you what I think of. I think of the vintage fire alarm systems. I went to Google it to try to pull a picture up of the matrix I was thinking of. But I started in the fire alarm industry back in the 80s. And it was an old Edwards 6500 vintage fire alarm today, but they're still out there. And they used a matrix. There was a matrix board. It's a square rectangular board. And that's what the very definition of matrix is, believe it or not. It's a set of numbers arranged in rows and columns so as to form a rectangular array. And the numbers are called elements or entries of the matrix, and the matrices have wide applications in engineering, physics, economics, and statistics, as well as variation branches of mathematics. So there's a lot of different uses. We use the matrix in the fire alarm industry, and I'm just going to disappear here for a bit, and I'll show you what it looks like. A matrix is a square, and on one side here, you will have your inputs, and then on the bottom here you have a whole pile of different outputs. So let's say in the fire alarm industry on level 1 we have a fire alarm. What do we want to ring for bells? Well, we come through this matrix, and we used to put diodes in so that it would ring well. It'll ring the bells below the floor, above the floor, and on the floor, and that's how you wire up a matrix. So what that means is for every input, we have outputs, and it's programmed outputs. So what does this have to do with religion? Well, religion is a matrix. Getting into religion is a matrix because you believe in it. In the fire alarm industry, our lives depended on this matrix working. And ringing the bells, evacuating the right people. You get a high-rise that's 100 or 80 floors up. That's a lot of people to get out, and you have to determine where the fire is, which bells you're going to ring. There's what they call first and second stage. That's all done with the matrix. And when the fire alarm is sensed, it determines which floor it's on, and it puts the whole building goes into a general alert. It's like ding, ding, and then after a timeout period, it speeds up the pace of the dinging, and then that means that the building's supposed to evacuate. So there's different things that we would use that for. In religion, how we would control, in fire alarm we control bells and sprinklers and things like that. Well, in religion, we use a matrix to control people. Yes, it's a matrix. So how does it work? Well, a matrix, when we think of the movie The Matrix, they kind of link that to religion. It was released on Easter weekend, 1999, The Matrix, the movie. And The Matrix suggested a parallel between Neo and Christ, both of whom are resurrected. And Neo is referred to throughout the Matrix trilogy as the One, that is the chosen one, which also describes Christ as Messiah sent to deliver from salvation. So the Matrix, over time, it's developed its use. So now when we think of the Matrix, we don't think electronics, we don't think fire alarm, we think of the movie. We think of being connected to something. And our connection is what? How do you describe all of that? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. What it's like being in a matrix, in a religious matrix. I was in one. What is a matrix beliefs? Well, matrix theory, there is kind of a religion on this whole movie Matrix. They call it matrixism. And their theory is based on the idea that the world is like a computer program with a set of rules and algorithms that determine how things work. And according as to per research, understanding these rules and algorithms is the key to success in life. And anyone can learn to hack the matrix by mastering them. So that's what we're going to talk about, is how to hack the matrix. You have to hack it to get out of the religion, the religious matrix, and the keys. Jesus gave us the keys, so it's actually quite easy. So what do you call someone who believes in the matrix? Well, they're a matrixism, or the path of the one, and that's kind of that religion that came from the movie. It's quite interesting. How does it relate to real life? Well, it's pop culture, especially among theorists and science fiction fanatics. And is Christianity the matrix? There's the question. It says no. Google says no. The matrix clearly contains religious allegories. Neo is the one, and Neo is an anagram of one. He's Christ figure who is supposed to sacrifice himself for the greater good. Now that's relating to the movie. Now, how can I escape the matrix? Well, by asking questions, or question our own assumptions. That's what it's saying, to question your own assumptions and seek out new experiences. Practice critical thinking, developing empathy, and taking action. You see, when you're in the matrix, you don't have real empathy, because that enables you to shun others. You're reacting to a program. The Watchtower program that's put into you tells you to shun others. So you shun others, even your parents, even your children, even ones that were close to you, dear to you, you shun them because the matrix told you to. It's the programming. You're plugged into it. And by being plugged into it, you automatically respond to the shunning policy. And the shunning policy is like the fire alarm being pulled. Fire alarm station is pulled, elders pull it. The shunning policy, it comes in, and here's how it takes place. A judicial meeting happens, announcements are made, records are written down, and and then after the announcement, others within the matrix of the religion, they contact others at outgoing congregations and spread this information to all others in the religion about the shunning policy. And this person is now shunned. And they're put into a kind of a bubble within the matrix. They're still in the matrix. They're plugged in. The people believe that they should be shunned. They believe it's normal. They're still plugged in. So everyone's plugged into the matrix in one way or another. How do we get out? We have to practice critical thinking. We can begin to break free from limitations that hold us back once we start cracking the code, per se, realizing that, hey, all of this stuff is not in the Bible. This was invented. These are all programs put in by the Watchtower. This is, and then the outcome is how they want their people, how they want to control their people. Everyone's plugged in to JW.org. Everyone's plugged into the Watchtower Matrix. And this is how it is within all religions, in fact. It's very powerful. This started at the beginning of time, when supposedly man came out of the caveman stage, started living in cities, economics, industrialization, farming. They had a sense of order. There was judges appointed. there was rules, there was a society, there was taxes. So we've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years in society. We've been living in this matrix. And within the matrix, it's highly religious, highly religious. In fact, the very first matrix was all about religion. It was all about worship to God, sacrificing your first fruits to God, giving them to God or the gods that were ruling over mankind. So all of the humans are in the matrix of the gods or the God, however you want to read it or understand it. So how can I escape? Well, we can ask questions, question our own assumptions. Like, we assume everything out there is evil outside of the matrix. We assume that. Question those assumptions. Question them. Seek out new experiences. Perhaps you've never tried yoga, for instance. Seek out a new experience. Find out what that's about. Is it part of the matrix? You know, if you really want to get out of the complete matrix, even living off-grid, you know, when people want to talk about living in society that has been set up since the beginning of time, I don't think any of us can really get out of it, but we can get out of these high constraint beliefs that are affiliated with the higher powers, with the gods or God. And this is the matrix that's really entrapped people in their minds to believe that everything outside of their little box is evil. It's bad. And they don't want to go there. So here's some questions we're going to look at here. Are we being controlled by the matrix? Google says yes. It says yes, we're living in a simulation. It's not a computer generated in the common sense of a computer, but it's generated, and we're in this matrix. Right at the beginning of time, right when civilization started, we started building cities, living together. There was rules set out. We plugged into it. We wanted to live in these cities. We no longer wanted to live in the caves. And even in caveman society, tribal societies, there's rules. If you break the rules of that matrix, there's a little matrix there. And if you break the rules, you get ousted from the tribe. Then you're really disconnected. You're all by yourself. You see, not everyone wants to be completely disconnected from the matrix that they're in. But to unplug, stand back and look at this all, it's an eye-opener. And you can see how people are controlled. And this is common knowledge now. Google's saying, yes, we are living in a simulation. How does the matrix control its inhabitants? Well, the machines pacify their human captives. That's how the show went, by interfacing their brains via these plugins to the back of their heads. And that's part of the show. That's part of the make-believe part of it. But the parallel to that is the matrix is tapped into our brains. So when you go to the religion, when you go to JW.org, you go to the Kingdom Hall, they're tapping into your subconscious, your psyche. And how do they do that? Well, if you're raised in it, you're automatically hypnotized into it by the age 7. And that's when we learn everything, age 7, if you're raised in it. If you're not raised in it, over and over again, the repetitiveness that they are the truth, they are the truth, they are the truth. MJ threw out a good video the other day on how many times in one talk they said, we have the truth, 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 truth. 120 times. They just beat it into the audience that they are the truth, truth, truth. It's the watchtower. It's the truth. Or they'll beat into the audience that the world out there is wicked. The world's wicked. You know, that's another one. Satan, the devil. And you see, by beating that stuff in, it's a form of hypnotism. People believe it. They're hypnotized. They're plugged in. You have to unplug. We're going to talk about unplugging. So, how does the matrix control you? The matrix can also be seen as a way of exerting control over individuals and maintaining the status quo. by defining what is considered normal and acceptable. And that's what's happening within religions, especially JW org. It's the norm to sign the blood card. Everyone ring the bell. Everyone gets up. We did a video on that the other day about the blood, and that's how it is. It's the norm. You get up, you sign your blood card. You get the elder next to you to witness it. You put it in your wallet. That's what everyone does. No one questions whether those scriptures are applicable or not to dying. No one questions that. So we did videos on that. There's lots of videos, but that's part of being plugged in. If we believe that, it exerts control over the individual's mind, and there's what's acceptable, what's normal, and what's not. So we can take that one step further. You get outside of the religious box. We also see that in society. There's what's normal. You can't just run down the street naked. Well, you can, but you might be in the 6 o'clock news or end up in jail. Could get cold. Anyways, you can do things, but if it goes against what's normal or acceptable, you're going to stand out. And that's part of the matrix, being in it. What is the matrix in today's society? Another parallel between the matrix and today's AI landscape is a concept of surveillance. So we think of surveillance if the machines are constantly monitoring human behavior within the simulation. So similarly, today we have that. We have AI-driven surveillance systems. They raise concerns about privacy and the potential for abuse. So when we think of JW org, there's a humongous amount of surveillance. Everyone's surveilling everyone. Everyone's watching everyone. That's why it's the watchtower. Everyone's on the watchtower watching all the members to see if they slip up so they can get into the elders meeting and use that elders book and disfellowship them. We're going to have a talk about that on another video about confessing. Okay, so is it really confessing going to the elders? No. It's just to get you into that judicial meeting. That's what that's for. You see, if you went and told the elders that you did something wrong, or told a elder, you'll just have someone to talk to. You're going to end up in a judicial meeting. But other religions do have confession, where you can just get into a thing, confess to the minister, the elder, and they give you some advice. You walk away, and that's the end of it. Let's say you committed adultery and you didn't know how to deal with it. Didn't tell your mate or something. Well, if you go to a JW elders meeting and confess, or not an elders meeting, but if you phone up an elder and say, hey, I want to talk to you about something, and you confess to him, well, the next thing you know, you're in an elders meeting. But he's going to cut you off, and you're not going to do this over the phone. He's going to bring another person. So now you got two people. That's the rules. So they bring another elder. You confess in front of the two elders. Now, if it's serious, it's three elders. Now you're in a judicial meeting. The next step is you're disfellowshipped. You're all alone. No support, no help. You see, with other religions, if you made the mistake and committed adultery or something and you needed some help, you went to see the minister, confessed. There's only one guy there. You don't feel overwhelmed by two. One guy, you're confessing. You needed someone to talk to. And the minister says to you, well, you know what you got to do. And you say, no, I just feel so good. I was able to talk to you. He said, no, you got to go talk to your wife now. You see, so that's where it is. And then he'll direct them to family counseling. Do you love your wife? You might ask questions like that. And direct them to outside family counseling, maybe church family counseling if they have it. But they'll direct them to family counseling. You see, in the elders meeting, jw.org, they do not do that. No family counseling. You see, you confess problem arisen within your household. You confess a sin. There's two elders. Next thing you know, they disfellowship you. There's no family counseling. No nothing. Nothing. No help. You see, what you really needed was to get in front of a family counselor, maybe a woman or someone that could, maybe the couple. And that's what can happen. But you see, with JW org, the way the matrix works in that religion, it's all rules. It's all in the elders book, and this is the outcome. So for this sin, this is the outcome, disfellowshipping. For this sin, this is the outcome, reproval or something, loss of privileges. So there's all of these inputs into the elders book matrix, and then you have all the outputs. So it's really easy to see. Once you get out of it, it's a matrix. And who developed the matrix? Well, the matrix was primarily developed by a man called Joseph Franklin Rutherford, the second founder of Jehovah's Witnesses, not Charles Russell, but Joseph Franklin Rutherford. 1916 he took over the organization, and that's when the real matrix started. He came up with all the litigation, all the rules. And for everything that happened, these are the outcomes. Mother's, Father's Day, here's the outcome. No more celebration, birthdays, Christmas, all of those things disappeared. A very high control matrix is what the Jehovah's Witness religion is. So surveillance, yes. The surveillance is done through the eyes of all of the 8.5 million members, and they're watching each other. It's like video cameras all over the place. So they're looking for any potential wrongdoing so they could report it to the elders. And then it makes them feel greater in the matrix. That's how they feel. There's no empathy, there's no love of neighbor. It's gone. It's love of the matrix. Love of those inputs into the elders book and the outcome of it. People love that. So escaping the matrix refers to the act of breaking free from the system of control. It's about reclaiming your autonomy, thinking independently, and pursuing a life that aligns with your true self rather than the society's expectations. So to escape the JW org matrix is to embark on a path less traveled. So few people break from it. And a complete break from it is going beyond, it's being okay with the word apostate, being okay being called that. Like we know, you and I know that an apostate of Jesus is something different. But an apostate means that you no longer follow that religious dogma, that religious belief. So a person on the outside, they want to be labeled as an apostate, because I do not want to be labeled as a person following the JW's belief regarding any of it, because I don't believe in it. I know it was a measure of control. It was implemented by imperfect men that had many problems in their life. But they were controllers, and they had all these implements, and there was money involved, and this was a business. It's a matrix. So how does the matrix work in real life? Well, it's based on, we covered that, it's a set of rules, algorithms that determine how things work. And that's how it is in JW org. It's the elders book, that's the rules book. And they claim it's all from the Bible. So you could say all of biblical religions are a type of matrix. Some are very high control matrix, others are not so much high control. So according to some research, Pew Research, understanding these rules and algorithms is the key to success in life, and anyone can learn to hack the matrix by mastering them. So what is the rules? Well, you get into religion, all kinds of beliefs. You get outside of religion, there's all kinds of beliefs as well. You can just jump from one matrix to another. So the Matrix trilogy suggests that everyone has individual responsibility to make the choice between the real world and the artificial world. So this is the key point. All of us, we can choose. We can choose between an artificial world. You see, religion is an artificial world. They paint these pictures over and over again. They paint the same pictures, the Armageddon pictures, the fear pictures. Lots of fear, lots of Armageddon. That's how they control people. It's an artificial world. It's not a real world, folks. So we allow our minds to be controlled by this artificial world that the Watchtower puts out, that other religions or other YouTubers put out, for that matter. It says, though Neo, and going back to that movie as an example of free will, fate plays a large role in this adventure. So how do you know if someone is stuck in the matrix? Well, there's a couple points here. There's 7 points. I'll put them up on the screen, actually. You're exhausted. So as a Jehovah's Witness, were you ever exhausted? I was always exhausted. I would go to those meetings and sleep half the time. I was so exhausted. Always exhausted, trying to get my hours in, trying to work for a living. I was always focused on the Watchtower. I was plugged in, 30 years of it, plugged in. And that's all I focused on. I'd go to work, I'd think about the meetings. That's all I'd think about. I'd think about the service, I'd think about return visits. I'd think about a talk I'd have to give that night, perhaps. All I'd be thinking about is the Watchtower. And I'd think about other people in the Watchtower, what they're doing, other friends. We would judge each other in the Watchtower. Lots of judgment. So you're always exhausted. The next point is your work-life balance is terrible. Yeah, my work-life balance was crazy terrible. And now I have these feelings of, well, did I spend enough time with my kids as they were growing up? Because all I remember is work, Watchtower service meetings, field service, work. That's all. It was a blur. It was a blur. I know I was imbalanced. The next one is your relationships are suffering. Well, I had nothing but relationship problems all the way through. All the way through. Here's the other one. This is the 5th point here. You gain and lose significant amounts of weight. I was like a roller coaster. Fat, lose a bit, fat, lose a bit. Still fat, but not as fat as I was. I'll tell you. So if you have weight gain problems, you're probably still plugged in. You're plugged into the matrix, the Watchtower. You keep saying, well, that's just the way it is. So you hear of some CSA reports on the news. Well, it's just the way it is. It's imperfect man. It's not Jehovah. There's no way. You see, you're plugged into Jehovah. You're going to defend the plug-in. But you're going to blame it on people. It's just the way it is. I remember asking elders, do you think there's something better, like a different truth, something clearer, Yeah. And he'd always say, well, if something better comes along, I'll be the first to quit. He's still there. Faithful, So, yeah. You keep saying that's just the way it is. We make excuses for the governing body. They made all these changes. We're counting time all those years for 100 years. And then all of a sudden this year, no more counting time. And beards. And we're saying, well, why couldn't we have worn it? It's not in the Bible. Beards are okay. And then we say, well, why did they stop us from wearing beards? And now they say they're not inspired. Like, what's going on? And then people say, well, that's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. It's just kind of how things go. Just stick at it. Look, keep your eye on the prize. And you notice they say keep your eye on the prize because the prize is way over there. It's these Armageddon pictures and paradise pictures that they painted in all these Live Forever books. So you keep your eye on the prize. It's way over there. And when you're focusing way over there, guess what? Everything else around you is blurry. The real life is blurry. You can't see it because you're focused way off in the future. Something that's a fictional story, something that Watchtower painted, and they sold to you. They plugged you into it, and you bought it. And we make excuses. It's just the way it is. The stuff around us. Focus on you see, if you focus on the prize, then you can put up with all the mistakes of everyone else. That's what they're saying. That's programming. Number 7, you think about the past a lot. Do you ever find that? You think about the past a lot? My wife keeps telling me, quit thinking about the past. Focus on what you want. Do you want the past again? Well, if you keep thinking about it, that's what you're going to get again. Over and over again. That's why, as humans, we keep regurgitating the past, and just like a dog, we eat that vomit back up and we live it again, over and over again. It's ugly. Why not focus on the future? Focus on something brand new. Be a little child again. Use your imagination. Make your own paradise. See what that would look like. Focus on it. You can do it. We got to get out of the past. The past will just make us angry. And we see a lot of that. Now, you lack the sense of purpose. If you're sitting there, what do I do next? The Watchtower at least gave us purpose, right? We'd get up, we'd go out and service. We'd have this purpose. They gave us this. You see, that's the matrix. They gave us this purpose. So we get out of the matrix. Now we have no purpose. What do we do? But if you're in the matrix, you lack a sense of purpose. But the Watchtower gave you purpose. But you have no purpose. But yeah, you do have purpose. And then you get to the end of your life, and that's all you've done your whole life. You've saved nothing up for retirement. You're old and crippled. Your organs are failing. And you can't do what you used to do. And they just kind of sweep you out. You're done. There's no retirement package. You gave it all to the Watchtower. Now what do I do? I got no purpose. I lack it. It's plugged into the Watchtower, you see? So these are some of the signs. The matrix, how to escape the 9-to-5 workday grind. You could think of that like plugged into the matrix, the workday grind. The workday grind for me as a Jehovah's Witness was every day I was thinking about the Watchtower. I'd go to work. So how do you concentrate on your work really good? If you're always thinking about that talk you're going to give and how you're going to use that illustration to impress people. That's what it is. Ego, a lot of it. So how to escape the 9-to-5 Watchtower grind. Work and grind. Start a business. Start your own business. Well, lots of Watchtower people have their own businesses. Window washing. Become your own boss is a great way to dictate your own hours. So I've always run my own business. Number 2, become a freelancer. Depending on your career field, connections, and financial stability, freelancing is another good option. And get a remote job. See if you can work out of your home anywhere in the world. That's cool. Move abroad. So move away from where you're at. Move somewhere else. And save money. Don't spend money ridiculously. Here's one thing I think of, and we've done it here. We've disconnected from the matrix to a certain extent. But think of things like having a dishwasher. When I was a JW, always had to have a dishwasher. It was like a necessity in the house. We had our laundry machine broke down this summer. We washed our clothes by hand. It was a good experience to see how easy it is to wash your clothes with a washing bar. You can just get a bar of soap. It's a soap bar. Wash your clothes. We just used a floor mat as a washboard in the tub. Threw all the clothes in the tub, washed our clothes. All summer we did that until we found a really good deal on a next to new wash machine. We bought it used, and that's what we did. Dishwasher. Lots of people think they need dishwashers. We don't need them. Some of the best experiences we have is doing dishes together in the kitchen. So there's lots of things that we think we need. Our lawnmower broke down this summer. You know what we did? We let the horses out. We have gates. Our property's gated in. And we just let the horses out. The horses mowed our lawn all summer. And they fertilized it too. And then when people came over, they visited the horses. The horses were tame, good around people. It gave the horses more experience with the people. So when people come over to ride the horses are friendly, people friendly. So there's lots of things we can do to disconnect. We didn't have to buy gas for the lawnmower. We didn't have to spend $300 to get it fixed because I'll wait for a good deal when I can trade that for something that I know how to do. Those are things you can do when you disconnect from the matrix. You don't need everything. What happens when your vehicle gets old? Well, you get another old one. You don't need a new one. As soon as you get a new vehicle, you're plugged back into the matrix because you're making payments. What about living remotely, living, here and there? Or we thought of even house sitting. Lots of people, rich people, have these houses that they can't look after, or they want to go south in the winter. Up here in Canada, we have a lot of that. And they need quality people without criminal records, people that can go in and look after their house. So there's ways of not being plugged into the matrix, not having any permanent address, and living and enjoying life. Maybe going fishing, having time to eat the fish. You got to find a clean stream nowadays, but find a stream that has clean fish that you can eat. Spend the afternoon catching a fish. So these are some ideas on the matrix. Let's talk a little bit about the matrix here. I got this silenced, I think. But yeah, this is the show The Matrix. We'll just play a little clip on it here, and I'll get that set up here.
What it is. The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
So that's exactly it. We are all in this prison within our mind. We're told. We're told what to believe. We're told what to think. And we're all imprisoned within our mind. Just like what's said in this show. It's actually brilliant how they did it. Okay, so for the last part, we're going to go to the book of, where are we? Matthew chapter 21 and verse 12. Jesus enters the temple, drove out all who sold and bought in the temple, and he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold pigeons. And he said to them, "It is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you made it a den of robbers." So here we see Jesus coming in, and he's unplugged from the matrix. The matrix of his time was the Jewish religious system. They were controlling people. They told you how much of your income you had to give to the temple, 10% in your best fruits or something like that. There was like 620 laws, and it seemed like the Pharisees kept the ones they wanted. But Jesus went in, it was about business, and he turned over the money tables. He disconnected, and he brought in two laws. He said to the people, he says, there's two laws that in fact surpass all of the laws. And it's basically love. Just love your neighbor. You see, if you don't love your neighbor, you can't love God. That's how that works. They work hand in hand. You can't love God and then hate your neighbor. The law doesn't work that way. So Jesus made it so easy. So easy that these religions in the matrix that form their own matrix with rules and ideas, they can't make a living on it because everyone probably loves their neighbor anyways, for the most part. And if we love our neighbor, that's all we have to do around us. We don't have to start our cars, go out in the field ministry and drive for miles. Those are not our neighbors. Our neighbors are right around us. Get to know our neighbors. And if everyone loves their neighbor equally, you have a society that is built upon love. You don't need these people driving around telling you that you're going to die at Armageddon. They're in their own little matrix. They're in their own little matrix. So Jesus upset that matrix. You see, that was the same matrix that was going on back in the Jewish system of things. If you don't do this, this, and this, you're going to die. And in some cases, people did die. And the God of that judicial system has brought death to its members for not obeying. So who wants to be connected to a matrix that is run by that God? That God that it's black and white. You don't do this, you're going to die. That God has a power. You're plugged in. You believe that power, you will die because you believe that. So Jesus came in. He unplugged. He says, no. He says, and he says, by the way, this kingdom hall is my Father's house. Because he probably helped build some of that. Who knows, as a kid, right? Maybe you helped build the kingdom hall. Well, the kingdom hall is your Father's house. That's what he told the people there, the elders that were money changers. And then he went on to say, out of the mouth of infants and nursing babies, you'll hear praise. That's what he said. You'll hear it out of the young people. And that's what we see coming out of jw.org, young people coming out and actually giving praise to Jesus. So when we go back here, the authority of Jesus was challenged. Well, the governing body, they say to all of us who are online, they say, by what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you guys the authority to talk about us? You see, that's what JW.org, that's what the governing body says. That's what they say to us. That's what they tell their members. On what authority do we do these things? As apostates, they call us. Well, the answer is here. Jesus answered them. They asked Jesus the same question. He says, I will also ask you one question, and if you tell me the answer, then I will tell you by what authority I do these things. And here's what he asked. Jesus asked them. He says, the baptism of John, where did it come from? You see, the Jews didn't agree with that, right? And you can follow that back. There's some history on that. So Jesus says, from heaven or from man? This is what he said to the Pharisees. This baptism of John thing was not a Pharisee thing. Theirs was about sacrifice, about burnt offerings and giving your tenth and your best tenth. That's what theirs was about. John the Baptist was about just getting baptized. None of this tenth stuff. It's all gone. And so they discussed amongst themselves, saying, well, if we say from heaven, well, then he'll say to us, well, why didn't you believe him? You see, if we say from heaven. So if they said that John's baptism was from heaven, then Jesus is going to say, well, why aren't you guys following him then? You see, they couldn't say that. And then they said, well, if we say it's from man, well, we're afraid of the crowd, for they all hold John as a prophet. They'll all come against us and we'll lose all our control over our people. This is what the Pharisees are thinking, right? So here's what they said in verse 27. They answered Jesus. They said, we don't know. We don't know who gives you the power. And then he said to them, well, let me move that so you guys can see this. So then Jesus says to them, neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things. So we say the same thing to the governing body. Neither will we tell them by what authority we do these things. Okay, so here's my last point. Can you be saved without baptism? Yes. Baptism has nothing to do with being saved. I was going to talk about, I had a little video here, I'm not going to put it on, but can I get baptized without joining a church building? I'm going to put a link in this for you. It's done like a little kid does it, and it's quite clear. You don't need to get baptized at a church. You don't need to belong to a church if you want to get baptized. You see, you don't have to get baptized because baptism really has nothing to do with your worship. And there's even scriptural support for that. Saved by faith, not by water. Okay? Ephesians 2:8 and 9. It brings out there that for by grace you have been saved through faith. And this is not your own doing. It's not a gift of God. It's not a result of works, so that no one may boast. You see, baptism is a public declaration of your faith. You see, once you put faith in Jesus, well, then you would practice his commands, the two commands, love, which is really one command, love your neighbor. Because by loving your neighbor, you're loving God. It's that easy. People can't make money off that one. So it's by grace that you're saved by faith. Faith that Jesus is the Savior. That's really it. Nothing more, nothing less. Well, that brings an end to this video. What have we learned? We've learned that JW.org is a real high control matrix. They have many inputs in to control all of the outputs. Everyone in that organization is connected. Everyone is a video camera or surveillance system monitoring each other to comply with what? The matrix. JW.org. It's a matrix. And it was set up back in 1916, just after 1850, when the actual matrix was designed. So Rutherford may have read the book and may have realized how he can build a matrix amongst people. Well, other religions were doing it already, and it's been done for several thousand years. And he just built a really high control matrix. So that's all we have for you today, folks. And I hope you're doing well in stepping outside of the matrix. And you'll find that when you're outside of the matrix, you don't get angry. It doesn't bother you, all these different beliefs. It's just water off a duck's back. Like, it doesn't matter if people have different beliefs. At the end of the day, the only thing that's really important is love. If the people aren't being loving, how can we change that? By us being loving. And when we have an overflow of love, and there's many ways to do that. That's an hour's discussion within itself. But when we have an overflow of love, it overflows to our neighbors, those around us. And that's really how we do our work. It's really that easy. You don't have to pay to learn that. Okay, folks, well, until next time, keep living your day with love. Bye for now.